Well, good afternoon, y'all. Welcome to the talk show for newbies. This is the recipe for study success, and my name is Hướng, a senior student of Western Sydney University, Vietnam. And this is my pleasure to accompany you throughout this episode of the talk show series. Can anyone please say hi to me? Hello, Thảo. Anyone? Anybody, please don't let me so alone. Hi, Ying. Hi, Đức. Hi, everyone. And with this talk show series, we and the school and seniors like us would love to help you prepare mentally and maybe intellectually for your promising journey ahead at Western Sydney, Vietnam. So please stay tuned and follow our series, which is held from 13th to 17th September. And for the sake of learning, and of course, for your dream to achieve scholarships, this series commits to provide sufficient information and really cool tips for you to survive stage 1 subjects. And of course, survive, but with flying colors if you like to. Specifically, as you may know, this episode is only for you, our prospective participants here, to get some instructions from the experts in the subject principle of management. And let me tell you, this may not be a hard one, but fortunately, a devastating one, unless you know how to fight it properly. And that's why I'm here. And also the experts are here to help you. So please send your warmest greetings to our beloved guest speakers here today, Mr. Chris Patchett, a lecturer of PM course, who might really be your future teacher or also already be your teacher.
Hello, everybody.
And also, please welcome Silver, one of the top students with really impressive results in this subject.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone. So, can you send your hi to our guest speakers? Okay, but hold on a little bit. Before we getting to know more about them, let's play a small activity, okay? Please join in the link. The organizing team, please join in for us with the link. Well, we'll play a small voting here to see how do you think you are when you learning PM course. Please join in the link, and when we'll leave the code for you to join in. Please vote. Have anybody see the link? All right. I see some voters already. Please join in. Come on. All right. Thank you so much. Please. Okay, while you're doing the vote, let me introduce to you a little bit about the agenda today. But just keep voting, okay? Just keep voting. And while voting, please listening to our agenda today. So as you see on the screen, in the first half of the show, Mr. Chris and Silva will share their thoughts and experiences on the subject. During this, let us know in the comment. If you have any questions, any concerns about this subject, the learning tools or the tips as you listen, please comment it right away, because the longer you hold on to it, the easier it fades in your memory. So just comment it right away. We love to receive your questions. And remember, don't be shy. Just be đúng. Yes, just be correct. Okay, don't be shy, because it's really nice of you to have questions. And maybe some of your friends are wondering the same questions as well. You're not the only one. We're not the only one. So no question is silly. And every question and comment of yours is a valuable contribution to us. We will answer all of those in the second half of the episode for the Q&A part. And in the end, we will have a small game. And whoever gets the fastest answers will have, guess what? We'll have my Facebook account. And I'm not kidding here. The winners, please contact me for the mysterious gifts later. I will give you a really mysterious gift later, and which gonna be really helpful for you. Thank you so much for your participation in the vote. I see so many voters here. I'll send you the link to see the results. All right. Thank you so much for your participation. Well, now, let's come back to our guest speakers. Good afternoon, Mr. Chris and Silver. How are you feeling now?
I'm very well, thank you. Very happy to be here. Thanks, Hướng. I'm good. How are you today, Silver?
I'm good too. I'm feel so excited because this is my first time joining this Wasu talk show and sharing my experience. I'm so happy to participate.
All right. I guess it is all our first time though. So, Mr. Chris, can you please introduce more about yourself to the audience?
Sure. Well, my name is Chris Paget. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I'm actually a graduate of Western Sydney University. So when I first finished high school in Australia and I went to university, I studied at the same university. So I'm very, very proud to now be working at Western Sydney University. As I mentioned, I'm from Australia. I moved to Vietnam in 1998, which maybe was before some of you were born, maybe not, but I've worked and lived here for the past 24 years doing lots of different types of jobs. I've worked in exporting ceramics, steel, furniture. I've also worked in the agriculture industry. I've been involved with sporting clubs in Vietnam. And I've also spent a lot of time lecturing at universities. So I guess that's a brief introduction. And the students that join my classes, they get a much more detailed introduction where I go into greater lengths. But I guess that's my brief introduction.
Thank you so much. Well, how about you, Silver? Can we know more about you? Because you got a really special name now. Like where you come from and why would you choose to study at Western Sydney University, Vietnam?
Okay. Hello, I'm Silver, and actually my real name is Nguyen, and I'm from Myanmar. Currently, I'm taking international business as my major at Western Sydney University because I believe studying at Western Sydney would provide the same value as studying in Western Sydney in Australia. So the academic process at Western Sydney, Vietnam is also very flexible. Like if students want to study offshore later, they can transfer in Australia instead too. Besides, the university also provide lots of extracurricular clubs that you can chill throughout your academic years. More importantly, Western Sydney, Vietnam provides several scholarships so that it loosens my financial burden throughout my study. I really like to study in Vietnam because Vietnam is economically developed a lot now. So, and I feel like we have similar culture. And so I really love to study at Western Sydney, Vietnam, in Vietnam.
All right, thank you. And for your information, you guys, she got really high score in this legendary subject though. So it was so impressive because I could not achieve that though. So let's see what the lecturer of this course say about principle of management. Chris, would you give us a brief introduction about principle of management?
Absolutely. I think Principles of Management is an excellent course, and there's a very good reason that we do Principles of Management at the start of your studying journey. And the reason for that is that, as the name suggests, what we do is we look at many different parts of management and lots of different aspects that are involved in management. So it's not a deep look into one or two particular areas, but rather we look at many, many different topics and touch on them a little bit to give you an understanding. So some of those topics include things like human resource management, or strategy and planning, entrepreneurship. We do a little bit on global management. We look at sustainability, leadership, many, many different topics. So the idea is to try and give you a broad range of understanding of all of those topics. And I think the reason that I think it's an excellent course is because then it enables you as students to either direct your study into a certain area that you like more than others. And even more importantly, it gives you a better idea of the type of roles and the type of positions available when you do graduate from Western Sydney University and when you join the workforce. So it's a general subject looking at many, many different topics to sort of broaden your horizons and give you a better idea of as many different aspects of management as we can. So I think it's an excellent course in that regards. It also, not only does it have many theories that we'll look at and we'll discuss those theories, but what I think is just as important is when we understand the theory, can we relate that to something in the real world? So it's all about helping students to see that the textbooks and the courses are not all there is to it. There's a lot more sort of relating it to industry and to different professions as well. And I think that it's very relevant in that respect, and that's why I think that I enjoy teaching it very much, and I hope that the students enjoy it also.
Oh, thank you for your sharing. So I could understand that these are like the foundation for any majors, right? So that is about the knowledge. And how about skills? So I guess Silver gonna give us the answers about the skills and maybe the main points that she have got throughout the course.
I've learned a lot from this management course, both theoretically and practically. If I have to choose some skill that I gained from this course, will be communications, problem solving, and leadership skill. Like for example, in the class, we are not only learning the theory. We have lots of like class activities that we can practice out what we learn in the class. So it improves your problem solving and communications, leadership, and management.
Okay, so but go back a little bit in time. When you first heard the name of the course, what did you think? And did you try to get reviews from those who have passed the course?
Yes, of course. The first time when I heard about principle of management, I feel kind of scared because I also heard about the lecturer and also the subject. So I asked to some of my senior friends who already finished the course, and I also asked for their advice, like the professor grading style, or like how should I behave in the class, or like some kind of tips I asked from them.
I guess we all did that though. However, I gotta stop here and emphasize one thing. I think it's really, really important for the newbies. In order for you to do so, to get the reviews from your peers, from the seniors, please join in more extracurricular activities and make more friends, please, because it's gonna be super helpful for you to widen your connections, and they will give you really, really realistic reviews on any subject. And well, based on Mr. Chris and Silver's answers, I may set some expectations for today, what you can learn, can gain after listening to our conversations. So here is the expectations. As you can see on the screen, first of all, we got to achieve some of the basic understanding about the principle of management course. Of course, along with that, we gonna have a look at the assessments, which you need to really pay attention to, because the assessment is the thing that gonna give you the scores. So please pay more attention in this section. And finally, learning tips for you to reading effectively, doing the quizzes, debate, and also some tools for video recording. Okay, but also need to stop here a little bit. Now we're getting to the main sessions, and please feel free to have any comments, any questions for us, okay? And let me introduce to you my offstage supporter is Phạm Như Quỳnh, and she will support you with every questions that you have. So please just feel really free to comment, to chat, to type in the chat box, okay? Well, now, as to your sharing, Mr. Chris, so principle of management aims at helping the students to get a sense of management, right? So to be more specific, which are the learning objectives for the students and how are the objectives gonna be assessed?
The course principles of management, I guess it's a little bit like an introduction to management, and it could be called that. We have assessments throughout the course. There are online quizzes that the students do both before and after each class. So those quizzes, as mentioned, they're online. They're all calculated automatically, and they contribute to 30% of your overall score. We also have presentations each week, and these are group presentations. And so those presentations are a review of the topic that we'll be studying the next week. So we have those. We also have twice during the semester, each team will be involved in mini debates, which take place as well. They're nothing to be afraid of. I had 2 classes today, and I've gone through and explained how they work to those students, and there'll be lots more information on that to come. And then finally, we have a final exam, which is done in week 14. So 12 weeks of the course and then a final exam.
Okay, well, for your information, may I repeat the 5 assessment in general for the audience? Well, first of all, we have in-class quiz, as you can see on the screen here. Gonna do in class, of course, and we have also a wrap-up quiz to do. It is due before the class. And besides that, we have some of the group work, which are recorded presentations and also debate. And finally, we have the final assessment, which is final exam with multiple choice questions and also short essay questions. Well, now, according to your observation, what are the most struggling things for students to accomplish all of these assessments?
I think that I don't know about the struggle so much. I guess it's all about making sure that you're aware of when the assessments take place, and we cover that in the first class and throughout the course. So there are no surprises for the students. Everybody is fully aware of what is required of them. I guess that the group work is a big part of it, and the reason that group work is a big part of this course is because group work is a big part of what you do when you leave university and you go to the workplace. And that's why it's very important and a wonderful opportunity for you to improve on those skills, because they are definitely skills that you will be using when you do graduate. Other skills that we work on to do with problem solving and as Silva mentioned, communication. So there are lots of other soft skills that students develop as well. But I think that of the students that may not enjoy the course so much, I think they are mostly the students who are not doing the reviews and therefore are not going over the material. Therefore, they don't do so well in the quiz, and therefore they may not enjoy it so much. But any student that stays on top of what we're doing and follows the schedule that is outlined at the start of the class won't have any issues. It will be very clear to them, and they'll understand and develop and learn along the way also.
Okay, Silver, so Mr. Chris mentioned about group work. So did you experience any problems when doing the teamwork?
I feel like I'm so lucky. I don't really have a big problem, but I still have some minors. Like sometimes we have difficulty setting up like offline or online meetings, and which like we have to choose all member free time, and we have to prepare for debate and case study or presentations. But like for other groups, sometimes I notice that like they have some group problems. If you have group problems, you at the end of the course, there has a peer assessment evaluations, and you can feel it and who really work and not. And sometimes like we have to understand each other, and we trying to support each other. That will be better. So otherwise, like the whole of your semester will be a nightmare.
Okay. Well, so as non-native speakers here, can you share more about your experience with the textbook? Was it hard to understand or something?
I In my personal perspective, most students who study at Western Vietnam already have a good English skill, and if you feel unclear or don't understand deeply, maybe like after the class, or you can ask, you can ask to the professor, or you can email to them. They are nice, don't be scared. So I will give you some tips, like when you read the textbook, trying to read the learning outcomes that is at the end of the chapter, so you can like get some kind of key main ideas, and you can go back to the lessons and review which one seems important, and you can adjust it, and you can analyze yourself, and maybe you can also practice some case study questions if you want. And I think if you can answer that, I believe it will sharpen your critical analysis and problem solving skill.
Oh, all right. Thank you for your sharing. Well, remember, guys, the summary part at the end of every chapter is gonna be a whole treasure for you to look at, to have an overview of that session. So please remember, if you cannot read the whole textbook, read that summary section, okay? Well, I remember in the voting, 19, so the second most voted part is that they are afraid of being overloaded with deadlines for this subject, and they may face procrastination as well. So did you experience the same thing? Do you have any tips for them, any sharing for them?
Sorry, Hung, you have to go again. I apologize.
Oh, okay. Sorry, that must be the internet connection. Well, can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I just said that, well, in the voting, so the second most vote, the students are really afraid of being overloaded with deadlines for principles management, and they may face procrastination as well. So this Silver experienced the same thing, and does she have any sharing for the students?
To me, not really, because I have only one class, 1 p.m. class once a week. So I have enough time to do the homework or this assignment, or like video recording or whatever. And like sometimes I still have to adjust my schedule. Sometimes if you are lazy, you have to make sure you are good at time management, and by then you have to learn time management and not to miss the deadline.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you for your sharing. Well, I gotta share. So my experience as well as a PM student, I used to undergo the same, not really same problem, but I actually did experience some of the teamwork problems, as you mentioned previously. And also for my personal experience, I didn't really get the structure of the debate, or even how to properly analyze a case study, giving rebuttals, arguments, kind of that. All I did was kind of instinctive. So if the audience know Uncle Roger said, I did follow my ancestor. So they tell me what to do, and then I did the same thing. So I guess a debate is a really unique thing about this course. Do you think this is the most struggling thing for students, and how they can overcome it, Mr. Chris?
From last semester, Hung, all of the students did very, very well in the debates. I understand that they were concerned about them, but when they have 1 week to prepare, and they have knowledge of the topics prior, and we go through and explain exactly what's needed. Now, for most students in the debate, their period of involvement is only sort of around 2 minutes. So it's not a very long assessment, not a long period of time. But once we do the first one, then all students will be absolutely clear on what's required. For that first one, we go through it in detail beforehand. The first debate is not until week 3, so we have 2 opportunities to go through beforehand. And I also provide the the marking criteria to the students so they know how they will be assessed. So there are absolutely no surprises for the students. It's all very organised and they'll be informed with a lot of time. But the students generally do very well on it, and I'm often surprised because they seem so reluctant at the start. But then there are some that really get into it and they're really very good. So I think that it's just because we haven't had experience with something before, we're always scared of it the first time. But I assure you that that won't be the case by the time you finish the course, either with the debates or the presentations. In fact, I think with the students of the quality of the presentations and debates that we had last semester, that they'll be able to undertake those same assessments in any other course that they do in the future. So I think it's a really good opportunity to learn those skills and to have those skills that can be used in other courses and in your future career also. On the topic you mentioned before, Hung, about procrastination, I think that that's common for every student in every country of the world. So if there's any students worried about procrastination, I think it's a very normal thing, don't worry.
All right, thank you so much. Well, you guys see, there are several difficulties await you in this subject. Nevertheless, this will give you a huge chance to challenge yourself and to be a better version of you. So we will soon discuss the tips for you to pass principle of management more straightforwardly. But now let's see how can we really absorb the PM knowledge and also achieve high scores then. Well, let's ask Silver. Do you usually browse our online platform, the school, on joining any social group on Facebook for the students?
Yes, of course. I like the WSU page, Western Sydney page, and also we also have Western Sydney student group. So I join all, and sometimes like some senior students, they share their experience and I go and check them. Sometimes they wrote in Vietnamese and I have to go and translate because I'm so curious.
Yes, you guys, also you gotta join our social media platforms, especially Western Sydney students groups. But what I usually see in those groups is that the students who has already passed the course, they usually tell each other about how demanding the lectures of principle management are. And you guys know what, in the vote at the beginning, the highest point, the highest section that the student vote in is that they gonna be a little bit scared of the lecture. That's what they say. So that the highest vote that achieved the highest vote. So let's see, is it true, Mr. Chris? Apart from our 3-hour class time and the lecture, also need us to spend another 3 to 7 hours per week to accomplish all of the requirements, isn't it?
I think that's about right. I don't know that all students do that, but I think that is definitely the recommendation. With the group work presentations, there is obviously time outside of the classroom that the students get together in their groups to do their presentations. So in terms of the number of hours, there certainly is time required to go through the textbook, to prepare the presentations and other group work. I think Silver might know better how many hours it took each week, but there certainly is. There's the component that we do in the classroom, but it's very important that the students are prepared prior to the class. I guess that's probably one of the bigger differences between high school and university, in that when you attend high school, you turn up and the teacher delivers everything for you. Because we only meet for 3 hours once a week, there needs to be some review that the students undertake beforehand. And I guess it's up to the students how long they take to do that.
Yeah, all right. So what was your real experience, Silver? Did you read like 6 hours per week?
I think I don't really read for 6 to 7 because like if I read more than 2 hours, I cannot concentrate anymore. So I think like some of the students like me, we will study like 1 to 2 hours, and then in the class also, for me, I actively participate in the class. So I take notes what teacher said. So I don't need to read all things again. I just need to review my notes. So it's easier, shortened, and understandable. So I think that would be very effective for you if you follow some kind of structure.
All right.
I think,
Well, yeah.
I think, sorry to jump in, I think that's an excellent point that Silva makes about the taking notes, because, and I've seen some of the questions that are coming through. One of them is about the final exam, asking if it's open book or closed book. The final exam is open book. So any notes that you take throughout the semester, you can take with you into the exam. So those students that don't take notes, they can still use the textbook, but they'll be spending the exam going through the textbook looking for what they need. So I think that's an excellent recommendation from Silva to take notes throughout the course, because as we said, you can use those notes during your final exam.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. Well, regarding what Silver has just shared, I guess that she hit your expectations, but do you have more sharing on the group contribution and maybe talking more about your expectation for the student before, during, and after class time?
Well, I think that regarding the group work, it is, as it says, a group effort with everybody receiving the same score. So the level of commitment needed is the group is relying on you to do your part. But I think you'll find that that's the case with many courses and with all universities. There's no difference there. But the group work, I think, is important because other people are relying on you for that. But it's no more challenging or no more difficult than anything else. So I think that's probably the biggest one. If I was to recommend to students who are studying PM, I would say be aware of the timetable and when we're studying different topics, because you need to review those topics before we study them. Also, if you're aware of the timetable, you see when the assessments are, although we go over that in class also. And I think being committed to your group, I was discussing this with students just this morning about about their group work, and it really is an integral part, that sort of collaboration that we have in workplaces of different groups of people working together. It's super important, and that's why we have such an emphasis of it on this course. Even though this course is at the very start of your learning journey, they are important skills for you to develop, both that you can use in other courses and in your future career also. So the group work and the presentations are big helps to students, I think. So I wouldn't look at them as something that's scary. Maybe they are now before you've done them, but they won't be scary later on, and you'll all be experts at doing them. So no problem there.
Yeah, okay. I'll get you. I remember you have a really, really good quote about teamwork. I remember you said like some students come up to you and said that they don't like working together with that person, and you told them that, do you think that maybe that person also don't like you? Doesn't like you? Yeah.
Well, I think that's the other side of group work, is that, yeah, you might not be happy with your group, but just consider that your group might not be happy with you either. And when everybody does that, it all works together well, because everybody does their very best. So, and this is not an unusual thing. As I mentioned, the group work at university level is very, very common, because group work in the workplace is so common.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you for your sharing. Well, you guys, let us know in the comment if you think these expectations are highly demanding or reasonable and achievable. Let us know in the comment what you think. Well, for your taking note, I have left some of the summary here on the slide. You can see and take quick notes on some of the really realistic sharing from our guest speakers. here are some of the expectations for you to do before class, during class, and after class time. Let us know, let me know in the comment if you can see the slide. Don't be so quiet. Don't let me so alone. All right. Also, we have some of the sharing. We sum up it here for the group work and individual work for you to take a look at. And now, most important part for you, maybe the reason you're here. Let's see how Silver, one of one of the students have really impressive score, managed to pass the course successfully. So can you give us some sharing? How did you manage to pass the course?
This time I cannot say it is a luck because it's both luck and your effort. So I think because I really like principle of management subject, so I pay more attention, and I told you I participate well actively in the class. So, and moreover, I also take notes in every session. Normally I take notes, I took notes on my Google Docs because I'm afraid that if I took notes on paper, I'm afraid that I will lose it. So, and sometimes I study with my friends because studying with friends has a lot of advantage and over working individual because we see the world differently. We share our different perspective on the task that we do, and and like we see the problems from different angles. One important thing is that when you take an exam, don't spend a lot of time in one questions, and always check the questions. And before you take, you can check the weight of the questions, so you can see like which question take more weight, so you can answer that first. I think it will be useful for you.
Okay, thank you so much for your helpful sharing. Well, now we're really moving on to the tips section. Well, I think to make this section more exciting, we'll play a small activity here. I will mention each assessment, and Mr. Chris and Silver can give the proper learning method for that assessment, or some of the tips as we may go through. Well, first of all, let's talk about the debate along with recorded presentations. So, Mr. Chris, you may go first.
Well, the tips for the recorded presentations are to follow the feedback that's provided each week. So what will happen is the students in a group will do a presentation, and then they'll receive feedback, and they're expected to act upon that to improve the next presentation. So following the feedback and effective group work are the keys to success for the presentations. For the debates are a little bit different in that we're trying to expand the thoughts, I guess, of the students in a way, because not only are you discussing your point of view on a certain issue, but you're also anticipating what the other team might say. So it's very much a teamwork activity. And in regards to the debates, it's all about the preparation. As I mentioned, you have 1 week before the debate that you're able to prepare. Your lecturer is always available to answer questions on email and those things that you may have. So that's always there too. But I would say it's always in the preparation, and the groups that prepare better always do better. I've never had any groups that had a disastrous debate. They've all worked very well. And I think the students have these hidden skills at debating that they don't like to talk about. The students will say that they're not interested, or they perhaps they're not confident in doing the debates. But when they do them, they are actually very, very good debaters. And I think some of them even surprise themselves. So they do very well.
Yeah, all right. Maybe because they follow what the ancestors said. Okay, thank you so much. Well, how about Silver? Did you ever experience the time when you had not really well prepared for strong arguments with your team at a debate? So what did you do at that moment? Do you have any sharing about that?
Most of the time, my team, we manage the time to prepare for the debates together. However, like, we are also a student like you. Sometimes, like, we maybe like forgot or lazy. I'm not sure. At those times, like, we trying to help each other, and we divide the task quickly. And maybe normally, like, normally we go to the class early and we discuss or like that. So I think that would be good. And you sometimes you cannot walk alone, and if you have extra ideas or comments, you can support each other and try to help your teammates for new arguments, and that would be very useful. And normally, like, after we find also I didn't stop like that, we check each other arguments, because is it related to the debate topics or not, we check together. And so, more brains is better than one brain. So yeah.
Yeah. How about video recording? What are the tools you may suggest for the students?
I use Adobe Premiere for video recording, but some students they don't know how to use that app. So you can use like InShot or some kind of screen recording or something like that. They have so many apps, and you can choose. If you know how to edit, you can choose Adobe Premiere, and it will be easier. And maybe if you don't know, you can come and ask me later, and so I can help you a little bit. I think those video apps are very useful, and normally we create the slide on Google Docs, and after that we make a screen recording slide, and we record the video of our set in our phone, and then we just combine the video. So that's very easy actually.
Yeah, okay. For my experience, my team usually book a meeting together on Google Meet or on Zoom, and then we can record the screen together. So everybody take turns to do the presentations. And by doing so, we can really control the cohesion between each part. So I think there are many tools for you guys to do the video recording effectively. And well, in terms of quizzes, maybe I can see that they are like the foundation, which is built incrementally to prepare for the final exam with multiple choice questions. So, Mr. Chris, how can students really practice for the quizzes and multiple choice questions?
The quizzes are easy to prepare for because they're all based on questions from the textbook. So if the students are familiar with the topics that are coming up in that week, then they'll do very well in the quizzes. And the students normally do very well in the quizzes. So I think it's all about preparing and reviewing the topics that are coming up, and then that will help the students. And it's a little bit the same with the wrap-up quiz too. That's after the class, paying attention in the class, taking notes like Silva does. I think they're all things that will help you succeed in the course.
Yeah. I know reading books and reviewings are really important. However, I know you guys as a Gen Z, like you all, sometimes we get into the mood, like Bruno Mars said, today I don't feel like doing anything. So, right, am I correct? So, Silver, have you experienced this situation, and how can we deal with the quiz, or how can we proactively participate in the class without home preparation?
I think as I told you, as I mentioned before, that you have to go to the class earlier, and then you ask to your friends and around. Sometimes you don't know, and if you don't have much time to finish all of to finish reading all of the chapter, you can just scan it. Use the scanning method especially for like chapter summaries, and so that would be very quick and easy, and you can catch up what lecturer teaching in the class later if you read some kind of summaries or the chapter before the class. And yeah, I think that would be easy. And most of the quizzes, they test your understanding, so you don't need to memorize all, and you just need to understand. And sometimes the quizzes will be like, they will give some kind of example, and they will ask like, well, you have to choose, just need to choose the right one.
Yeah, thank you.
With your instinct, okay?
Yeah, thank you for your sharing. Well, some of my friends told me that she didn't usually read books at home, but she managed to go to class earlier, and she spent like 15, 20 minutes earlier before the class to read the summary, and then she gonna do the quizzes so fine later. Well, actually, there is also a really cool tip that you can do to practice your understanding is that when you skim and scan the summary section, then you can go to the case study part and apply those knowledge to analyze the case study. So that may test your understanding before doing any quizzes. Also, all right. So now here's your turn to be highlighted audience. Now we're moving on to Q&A sections. We've received some of the questions, and thank you guys so much. Please commenting more questions or any concern you have, any myths, rumors that you have around the subject. We'll clarify it for you. So now let's see some of the questions. Okay. Okay. There's a question asking that from bạn Ly Nguyễn Trương Thảo. So bạn Thảo Ly, is it correct? Am I correct? So, well, is principle of management suitable for marketing field? I think Mr. Chris gonna give the answer to this one.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, marketing is a huge part of the business world at the moment, both with more traditional forms, and also now we have all the online marketing that you're probably bombarded with whenever you turn on one of your devices. But yeah, absolutely. And I think it's an excellent course, as I mentioned, because it is like an introduction to management where we do look at many different aspects. And marketing is very much a management activity on many levels. So absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Well, Tường Phạm has another question, is that how many number of materials that I have to read before coming to class, and will I be informed? I guess Silver can share her experience.
Okay, based on my experience, my main material is the textbook. And the second material will be like I browse, like I search it on internet, some kind of, if I don't clear about the one that I read, like some topics, and I search it on internet, or I watch some kind of YouTube explanation, and that will be useful. But I just want to encourage that you should read the textbook as well, and then it's very clear if you really read it. If you don't read it, I'm not sure about that. Okay, and then and some kind of like internet website can help you for your understanding as well.
Yeah. Mr. Chris, do you have like any add-in? Oh.
No, I think Silver's got it spot on there. I couldn't explain it any better.
Yeah. Okay. So I got another question for you right away. Is the final exam closed book or open book? For the open book exams, which type of documents is allowed? So I think we mentioned it already, but I think we need to repeat it again.
That's okay. So the final exam is an open book exam. So that means that, yes, you can have a copy of the textbook. Now, most students use the online version of the textbook, but it also means that you can have any notes that you've taken throughout the course in the final exam with you, which I think those students that take the time to take notes throughout the course, there'll be a huge benefit to them when it comes to the final exam. So yes, it's an open book exam. It consists of multiple choice questions, which the students will be familiar with from the quizzes that they do, and then some very short answer questions. So very brief answers where you're perhaps given a question and you need to write an answer to that. But they're not really essays, much shorter than that. So I think that the best thing to do is to take notes so that you can remember to use them in your final exam.
Yeah, thank you so much for your answer. Well, we have another question. I think is a really interesting one. Do I have to complete any course before studying principle of management to understand the theoretical knowledge of the course? So I think maybe Silver, you can answer this. Do the students need to study any subjects before principle of management?
I think principal management is just the first, how to say, I just follow the university plan. So my first semester will be like maybe academic English, like marketing and economic. And then the second semester, I study management. So after you study management in the stage 2, maybe you might study like leadership or something like that. That would be useful. So before leadership, you have to study management and design thinking. But before management, principle of management, there's no subject. I don't know how to recommend. Yeah.
So in your point of view, Mr. Chris, do you have any recommendations or the answers for these questions?
I don't know if there's an official subject that's a prerequisite, but in my opinion, there wouldn't need to be. I think any student would be able to come into a PM, Principles of Management class, and start doing it without any prerequisites. So there's no issues there.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Well, there's also another question I think is really related to finding sources for the arguments, for the debate. So that the student, maybe Huệ, she asked, can you share some of your highly recommended reference book that we can use in the subject? Well, Mr. Chris, do you have any idea?
For the reference book, the main book that's used is the course textbook. And so all students have an online version of that. And the course actually follows the textbook. It's based around that book. So that would be your primary source of information. Inside the textbook, when you are, if there are topics that you want to investigate further, then there'll be lots of information from many different sources on any topic that we cover in Principles of Management, because it is such a general course, and it is a course that every business university would have a course that's similar to PM, to Principles of Management, designed to introduce the students to many different aspects of management that they may encounter in their career. So there's certainly lots of opportunities to research further if you liked, but at the minimum the textbook is enough for students to pass the course and get through.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your answers. Well, personally, I have a book in mind when it comes to Principle of Management. Well, after I completed the course, I did read about Tim Cook, an autobiography of Tim Cook. So he mentioned about his journey to become a CEO of Apple. And this is like the real case study of how he applied the principle of management into it. And I really can review all of the knowledge when I have already accomplished the course. So for your sake, maybe just for the learning and understanding, you can look for the biography of Tim Cook, CEO of Apple. Okay. And well, we have another question here. Tường Phạm asking, which course should I learn first, Principle of Marketing or Principle of Management first? Do you guys have any recommendation for
yeah. To me, I think I study marketing first, and then I study management. But I think it would be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there is no clear order for the stage 1 subjects though. They actually they are these subjects are always, you know, like trying to build a foundation for you. So it should be fine. It should be fine. Well, another question, is there many theories in principle of management? I mean, is there any practice activities in this class?
So two questions there. The first one, yes, there are a lot of theories in principles of management. So we're not going to tell any lies about that. Yes, there are. Is there any practice activities in this class? There are a lot. And the reason for that is because when you look at your class time, there's a 3 hour or 3 hour and 15 minute allocation for the class. Now, I can't talk for 3 hours non-stop, so we have to have group activities and other exercises for the students to undertake. So yes, absolutely, I'm a big fan of activities and students doing activities in the classroom because it helps them, it helps all students with their learning, and bringing those ideas together is really valuable. So regarding the theories, yes, there are. And regarding the activities, there are lots of practice activities in class. Now, all of those activities would relate to the theories. So the theory is the base, and that's what we learn from the textbook. And we could do that anywhere in the world. As long as we have the information, we can study and we can understand the theory. But perhaps what's better than just understanding the theory is being able to apply that theory into a real world situation. So when students read something in a textbook, sometimes it can seem very, very boring if you can't actually relate what you're reading to your experience. So I'm very much always conscious of that. And I understand that being students, that not many have any work experience before. So we're very aware of that, and very aware that it's our job to sort of introduce the students not just to the theories of the course, but also how those theories are applied in the real world when you graduate, because you're not at university forever, and when you leave, that you'll need those skills. So that's a very big part of what we do.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I have another question. I think this student, they may really focus on our sharing. So she asked a question that can Silver suggest an effective note-taking method during the lessons?
Okay. During in the class, I just for my note taking, I don't really write full sentences. So normally, like, I just write a short sentences, and because if you write full sentences, you cannot catch up anything. You will miss all of the information, right? So you just need to write short sentences. Maybe sometimes I wrote it in English, sometimes I wrote it in my language. So it's a bit easier for me to write and to understand when I read my notes again. So, and also, like, when you write the notes, trying to use some kind of bullets, so it will be like the points, and so when you really reviewed it, it is not very messy. If it is very messy, you don't know where you should start reading or not. So I think that would be good. And sometimes I want you to make like some key topics or the idea, and then the following like structure, or if you can do like mind map. If you know how to do like mind map, that will be very easier, because like when you do mind map, you just need to draw the key idea in the middle, and then you make a branch, and then the possible causes or related things. So when you really reviewed it, like normally if I just look at the task, I don't really remember all, but if I look at some kind of visual aids, it is very easier for me to remember. So I think that would be very useful for you. And you can use some kind of highlights, and you can use highlights. That would be good. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, can I share my personal experience as well? So sure. One of my favorite writing style is to follow the Cornell note-taking. You guys can search it on Google. It's a really cool method when you can take your summary at the end of the page, and also some details in the right side of the page, and then you can leave like a blank space in the left, like a really small space, and then you can add in when you come to class and the lecturer tell some more examples. So that usually the ways that I read books and taking notes. Well, yep. Well, I think we got another question, which is a really important one. How to find credible sources for your debates, yeah, for your presentations, all of that, for your study.
One of the issues with credible sources for students is due to the increases and improvements in technology. If you type marketing into Google, you'll just be swamped with so much information that it's hard to know exactly which is the right source to follow. So one of the good ways to do this is to, I think, to start with the textbook. It's definitely a reliable source. And then from the textbook, they also have other references in there that you can utilize. So you're able to look at the references that the textbook uses, and you can follow some of those. I think the standard sort of measure to check whether something is a reliable source is that it needs to be factual and truthful rather than a belief or an opinion. And I think that the students will have developed the skills that enables them to understand whether something is just an opinion or whether it is fact. But understanding the challenges there. For the debates, there's not a lot of theory involved. A lot of the debate will be based around your feelings and your experiences. So you don't necessarily have to do a lot of research for the debates. And the other assessments are based on the textbook. So I think follow the basic guidelines that the university provides for what is acceptable as a source. But don't forget, if you at any time, if anybody's having any troubles, that's what the teachers are here for. So you can contact us on email, and I'm very happy to let you know whether something is can be useful to you or not. So I think that's something that I should have added earlier. Because we only have a meeting, a class for 3 hours once a week, it is important to sort of continually review and to come back if there is something that you think you haven't understood, because otherwise it's another week until you have your next class, and then another week, and you don't want the time to get away from you. So I think that that's also important.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, there is a question I think is really interesting as well. So as Nga asked a question, is the teaching method, I think I get the question, is that is the teaching method similar among all the lecturers for principle of management?
I can only tell you about one lecturer of principles of management, and there you have to ask Silva, who I'm not sure. Sorry.
Yeah. Silva, what was your experience with the lecturer?
I think different lecturer, in my perspective, different lecturer has a little bit slightly different requirements and expectation. So you have to know your lecturer well. So you know how to approach and address everything, maybe in class or the question. That's some kind of style. And when I study management class, I study with Mr. Saram. So you will know, maybe most students know him, and then so he will tell you, like, if you answer one question, you have to like tell why, the reason, like one statement, and then you have to support the arguments, and like supporting one, evidence one, something like that. He will explain the structure, his marking style, and he will explain. But maybe Mr. Chris, maybe he also may have his own a little bit slightly different style. But so you have to know your professor well, and you can ask some of the senior students. Normally, before I studied this course, I asked to like some senior student who study with Mr. Saran, and now you can ask like the student who study with Mr. Chris. So that would be also very useful. Yeah.
Yeah. But one thing I need to ensure here is that the assessment's gonna be the same, but the teaching style is gonna be a little bit different because, you know, it's the personality of each person. Another thing I need to emphasize here as well is that don't be a bit afraid, even a little bit. Don't be so afraid. Like Mr. Chris said, this is the reason why the teacher is here for you to ask questions, to contact when you need. So just feel free to contact the lecturer, okay? Well, I have a question from another audience. Well, he asked, since plagiarism is what the university students must avoid, is there any reliable and recommending plagiarism checking platforms out there? I currently only know Turnitin.
I'm only familiar with Turnitin. However, I can tell you in this course that I've never had to use Turnitin because we don't submit anything that could be plagiarized. So you can't plagiarize in the online quizzes or in the debates or in the presentation or in the final exam. So there are no issues that I'm aware of with plagiarism in this course because of the way that the assessments are set up. In other courses where you're perhaps writing essays as your assessment, then I think that becomes more relevant, but not so much for the PM course.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Well, really, final questions. Can I use books and other material while doing quizzes?
Yes, because nobody would know.
Yes.
If you're doing it at the moment with the online learning, I'm sure that all students are doing it with the books. I haven't had a class on campus yet, so I'm not sure. That's something we'll have to think about for the future. But at the moment, the students are using their books for the quizzes. Yep.
Yes. Okay.
And their notes and whatever they choose to use.
Yes. I've seen a rumor here. A student said that I have heard the previous student said that the case in each chapter is super important because it also appears in the final exam. Do you have any advice or for answering these cases?
I've always recommended to the students that they should go through those case studies because that's a little bit like what I was mentioning before about understanding the theory and then recognizing it in the real world, because the case study is a reflection of something that happened that is based on the theory that you just studied. So yes, I do recommend that the students do those case studies that are in the textbook, but they weren't included in the final exam. They may have been in the past, but not with my experience.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe with Silver. Were they in your exam, Silver? I don't know.
Yeah. In my exam, they had some case study question, but the question is not from the textbook. The teacher, he make it his own question, but the case study of like some ideas are the same. Like if they ask like Coca-Cola or some kind of Starbucks or whatever, like case study may be the same, but the question will be different.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Well, in a blink of an eye, we finished the Q&A section already. A big applause, right? Okay. Now moving on to a game. Remember, I told you in the beginning, we'll play a game, and please contact my Facebook for the gift later. So now we're gonna choose like the 3 fastest answers of this question. So please listen carefully. Type as fast as you can 3 most important skills for the course in your opinion that you have heard mentioned previously by our speakers. Come on, guys. Come on. Don't be scared. Western Sydney University students only scared of like not passing the subject and paying $14 million for a subject, right? We're not afraid of those questions. Come on. Come on. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tuyen, for joining. Thank you, Phúc. Yeah, thank you, Ian. Come on. Other people, we're going to choose the fastest and answer the most, like close to the answers question. So close our answers to the questions. I'll review the, yeah, come on. Yeah, typing in. I'll review the answer right away. Okay, thank you so much. Here is our summary for you guys. The most 3 important skills, as you can see here on the screen: self-reflection, effective group work, and time management. As you can see here, thank you really much for your participation. You can just contact me, okay? All of you. All of really proactive audience participants here. Okay, now before closing, well, okay. Before closing, well, actually, the purpose of this talk show series is to guide newbies like you guys to know how really get accustomed to the new term global citizen. I bet that you might heard it already in the orientation day, right? So we wish that you would be motivated to graduate with approximately an English capability of 8-point IELTS and distinction scores from Western Sydney University, and then gaining a position in a large multinational corporations. And all right, I know some of you guys here who might be over 18, some are going to be 18 soon. Well, let's together grow, mature together, okay? So let's be more independent, more responsible, and more self-esteem. And also, it's really important to keep in mind that everything has multi-dimensions, especially for this principle management course. You must look at things with multi-dimensions. And therefore, we need to view and listen from several perspectives and have our own ideas to finish all of the course really effectively, successfully. Okay, and remember, accepting differences is really critical when you're doing teamwork as well. Remember, you don't like your teammates, but the teammate may also don't like you too. So eventually, when we can accomplish all of these, we can develop being towards what we call goodness, okay? And finally, it's time to say goodbye. Well, thank you, Mr. Chris and Silva, so much for joining us today, and especially for providing really, really helpful instructions and advice. And also, thank you guys so much for participating so proactively. The next episode will be covering AEP courses for part 2, and join us for more tips. Hope you have a promising journey ahead. And if you want to rewatch this or receive a recap on today's content, please like and follow Western Sydney University Vietnam fan page. And also remember, joining Western Sydney University students group, okay? I'll be there in the group for you guys. Thank you and see you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.